Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the issue of how do we, as a society, how do we decide who goes to higher education, onto university and all that sort of thing. How do we decide that? Through what mechanism? Should it be the brightest kids? Should it be strictly pass or fail of tests? Should it be how many, whether you're a black lesbian or not? Should it be all social engineering? What should it be? What should the methodology be? Now, when I was a kid, and I'm not like a million years old, when I was a kid finishing high school and graduating and going on to university, only 3% of the kids that started high school went on to university. This was a pass or fail system back then. If you flunked, you flunked, and you didn't go to university. So 3%, that was it. Now, I didn't doubt the kids that went to university. There was a couple where I thought, gee, I wouldn't have imagined they'd have done that well. But nonetheless, the kids that went to university were the brightest kids. I recognized them as the brightest kids in the school. A lot of them, far brighter than me. I remember this guy who was a mathematics whiz. I wasn't. I was pretty ordinary at mathematics. And other kids. There was a kid that got a scholarship based on sport. I can't remember what sport they played now, like I don't know, soccer or basketball or something, whatever it was. So there were scholarships, not simply for pure academic achievement, but also for outstanding sporting achievements and so on. So, but anyway, it was the best kids, the brightest kids, the most capable kids, the highest performing kids were the ones that went to university. And so every dollar spent on them, I thought, was worthwhile. Now, there were kids that didn't go they graduated, they made it to university, but they didn't go because their families weren't well off enough. Their families were working class kids and they just didn't have the bucks or whatever the reason was, but they were financially unable to do it. Now, there were some that went to the university with the idea of doing it full time and found that they couldn't hack it. There were some that because it was very strictly pass or fail back in the day. So if you flunked the test, or you weren't handing in your assignments on time, or you weren't attending lectures, they would call you and say, well, what's the problem here? If you're not prepared to put every ounce of your effort into this, you're wasting your time and our time. Why should you be taking up a place in the lecture hall? Why should the lecturer have to grade your paper when you're not even trying? And all these sorts of things. And you had to show cause. If you flunked your sort of test at the end of the year, they'd effectively tell you, look, buddy, you might as well leave. There are very few girls in there. The sociology courses that girls were to embrace were just starting off at about that time. Things like peace studies or poetry studies or something, and then women and gay people were attracted to that. But the serious the amount of courses back in the day, there are like 100 times more courses in university today, college today, than there were back then. So there was a much smaller number, and the courses were treated very seriously. History in the day was treated as a very serious undertaking. You weren't talking about, Black Lives Matter or the evils of, white Nazis, slavery. That sort of stuff wasn't talked about, or not at the time, at least. So anyway, a very small number of kids got through. But I remember kids from poorer circumstances, not necessarily from the school I was at. It's in quite an affluent area, but other kids I was aware of where bright kids got scholarships. And also, at college, you meet kids that are there on scholarships. And I came away as a very firm believer that scholarships have a big place in any society that wants its best and brightest kids or people to participate at this level, which is, advanced or tertiary education. Now, the amount of kids that bright kids, there's not that many bright kids that come from poor circumstances, but they're there. And there's, given that the poor people are far more numerous than the rich people, then there's still quite a lot of people that come from poor circumstances. And if they're bright, I think they should be helped with scholarship, not simply just in university, by the way, but into senior high school scholarships, I think, should be available for some of these kids from poorer circumstances. Otherwise, the families may put pressure on them to start working and make an income because the family needs the money or something like that. But so I'm a firm believer in scholarships. Now, scholarships used to be around and used to be, I wouldn't say they were prolific in their distribution, but they were there. And I thought, even back in the day as a kid, I thought they should have been expanded. But instead, Western societies, under globalist pushing, went the other way. And now we've got to create equal social outcomes. We've got to re-engineer society. So people that couldn't pass a test to save their fucking lives, we'll put them into university. And then we'll also have, race quotas and gender quotas and lesbian quotas and trans quotas and all this sort of thing. But these kids are only getting like 20% in the exam. Who cares? We're re-engineering society. We're creating a paradise, a fucking Marxist fucking nirvana. So who cares about grades and IQ and everything? That's bullshit. We're creating a Marxist paradise, and this is how we're going to do it. So this was the direction they took, and scholarships were there, but they were used to fund black lesbians from some rural township in the middle of nowhere. I was surprised at how many scholarships in the United States were handed out to black women coming from small rural townships. I was quite taken aback by that. And I was looking at it a year or so ago, I guess. And then what I noticed, and I kept it in the back of my mind, but what I noticed when I was looking at the US aid money that was going through to NGOs and all this thing, that these NGOs that were giving scholarships to these, black lesbians from townships in the middle of nowhere, they were being funded by USA. So even that was a fucking scam. None of that was organic or natural, and that was a complete scam. But for bright kids, who actually can pass exams and they've got an IQ above 100, and they are industrious and conscientious, which they probably have to be to do well in exams, then they should be, I believe, encouraged and supported by scholarships. So to replace affirmative action, to replace diversity, equity, inclusion, to replace quotas and all that sort of stuff, scholarship should come in, because we want the very best and brightest of our society to get the very best education, because they're going to start the businesses. They will employ people. They will create wealth. They will invent the cure for cancer. They will design the rockets to the moon and so on. And that's the people we want. We don't want low IQ black lesbians who can barely think through the simplest issue, taking up positions at university. That does not better society. It does not create anything that's of benefit to anybody. It's artificial, stupid bullshit that is doing nothing but holding back a society in total, whilst allowing low IQ flunkies to have ridiculous dreams of grandeur. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.